and I've never talked about this on camera, and it was shooting of The Crow, and Brandon died during it. And since then, I'm very conscious of the dangers of making a movie, and it is a dangerous proposition. We throw ourselves out there with, at least me, with very little regard for my body when I'm doing it, and you're using different props that can be really dangerous, especially if they're not treated well. I mean, what happened to Brandon was a tragic accident.
Okay, this is one hell of a mess of a story. First of all, I just want to say is we held off on this story for a little bit of time. Originally, this story was when the original story broke in the media. We were going to carry it then as breaking. And as I was listening in and the information I was getting from people I know in the industry, one or two of them says, hold back on the story. And this is what we do here on Q2Cast TV and Man with the Show. And because, you know, people have said in the comments as well, you're a little behind. I said, well, it's because sometimes the stories come out too fast and too much misinformation is given at the time. But before we start, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, share this video, hit that notification bell, and switch to all, and you'll receive all of our notifications here on Q2Cast TV. Okay, let's start at the beginning. In Santa Fe, New Mexico, there is a movie, a Western being shot called Rust. It stars Alec Baldwin. Most of the story is concerning about a father trying to save his son from being hanged after accidentally shooting someone. Ironically, it's the plot of the movie, but we're not certain to that nature. During one of the scenes, a scene was being shot. Now, we're not ascertaining what type of scene it was or to the nature. There's a lot of confusion to that nature, but as far as we know, is Alec Baldwin pointed a gun toward the cinematographer and director, and the gun went off. Now, did Alec Baldwin pull the trigger? Was it an accidental misfire? We don't know. What we've been hearing so far is that basically there have been misfires on this set, number one. Number two, we've had inklings that there have been some situations with crew members on the set that some of them left the set. Did they leave because of safety issues that were going on, or was it due to the issues that were going on during the negotiations of the strike of the workers' unions that are going on now? Hard to say. Could be a little bit of both. Note, the cinematographer passed away because of the shooting. The director is in the hospital for this situation. First of all, to the situation that people are putting out there. Gun, prop gun, loaded gun, and all that. I've worked on some movie sets. We've used prop guns that don't shoot, or we use plastic guns where we don't have safety. That's to the extent of what I understand. I've been looking at a ton of videos and information over the weekend, and you'll see some videos as we are talking about this from people who are experts. We don't know the exact type of weapon. We can narrow it down that it's an 1800 revolver. It could be an Umberti 1847, it could be a Colt, it could be any of those categories. This is not a Beretta, this is not a 9mm, this is nothing to the nature that you've seen in big films like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, all these films that you see these heavy-end classification of weapons. And there's even some confusion on if it was a handgun or a shotgun, from what people have said. But like I said, we don't know 100% what type of weapon it was. Now, nevertheless, when you look to the parameter of the type of weapon, the old Colt West weapons are a little bit more dangerous to handle than the standard 9mm handgun. Of course, you have to treat both the same as far as the dangers on the set. Now, the other parameters on here, and most people don't realize, is they say the prop master has to handle this. The prop master. Understand, anytime you're using guns, explosives, stunts, you need an expert on the set. Now, in the case of using handguns or rifles or anything of that nature, that is a weapons master or an armorer. Now, the weapons master or the armorer was a 24-year-old woman by the name of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. She is the daughter of a gentleman named Fel Reed, who's a weapons master himself. Fel Reed is a man who's responsible crew on movies like LA Confidential, Tombstone, 310 to Yuma, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is a gentleman who has worked on many films, very good expertise in what he does. Now, as far as his daughter, from what I understand from the information that we have right now at this time, this is only her second film as a weapons master or armorer, however you want to call it. Now, this is, I think it is a big budgeted film. And to give a situation from the information that I've gotten so far, a job to someone of a Wild West movie with the type of arms that were used in the Wild West that are, how can I say, load a little differently than a normal handgun is loaded, is very dangerous for an inexperienced person to be doing. Now, you could watch many videos on YouTube that shows you how this is done. Now, a lot of these old pistols, these old Western pistols, are they're readjusted to be able to fire blanks to the nature and stuff like to be used on movie sets. But from what I've gotten, there are extra things that have to be done. Old revolver, even old, like if you ever see a Dirty Harry movie, revolver type weapon, things have to be mashed in, gunpowder, the certain things have to be removed from the bullets themselves. In other words, this is not a normal firing weapon that you would fire an actual bullet out. You can, but basically, there are things that are eliminated from the bullet itself to be able to fire on set, and looks like basically the gun is being fired.
Cartridge, they will remove the bullet, empty out the gunpowder, and they'll also make the primer inert. You can't just shoot the primer and then leave that divot in there, because there's what a primer looks like when it's been shot. And knowledgeable viewers would recognize that as a dummy round. So you have to make that primer inert without shooting it or without hitting it with the firing pin. And then you just press the bullet back into the empty cartridge with the dummy primer in there, and you're good to go. You could smack that thing with the hammer all day long and it is not going to go off, because it is just an inert piece of lead, copper, brass, and a primer, whatever they're made of for that particular round.
Now, the one thing is that there are a lot of stories and situations that are going on this set, and a previous set that Hannah Reed had worked on before, that she worked on a previous, that she gave an 11-year-old a weapon which basically was not properly checked, safety check, or was loaded to the situation. Now, understand, bullets are not, actual live bullets, rounds are not allowed on movie sets anymore, supposedly. Each state have different rules and regulations. Same thing with federal when it comes to licensing these prop masters, weapon masters, armorers, you know. And you have to go through safety checks from beginning to end. Each of these weapons must be test fired properly. They must be cleaned properly, loaded properly. When handing to the actor or actress to shoot, that actor is also responsible for checking to make sure everything. And if there's any questions, the weapons master must be there to make sure that the questions are answered before that trigger is pulled. And like I said, was the trigger pulled? Was it not? That's up to the investigation. And you may ask yourself in a comment, you may say, well, they said, take it, everything you hear, you take it for a grain of salt. We don't have the full details. Every day, a new detail is released. Especially now, which we got prior to this recording, is now the assistant director, David Halls, is believe it might be investigated. For the reason is there has been indication that he has been on other films, including films on Blumhouse, where basically he's no longer working for Blumhouse Films, that safeties were laxed on the sets he worked on. Now, is it specifically that he caused the lack of safety, or was the production had a lack of safety? We don't know. And the thing about it is, for many years, there have been accidents on the sets. Now, as far as pistols going off, either by accident, by negligence, and stuff like that, it's still very minimal. We all know of the situation with Brandon Lee. That's the biggest one. The other one, which most people have not heard until now, was an actor named John Eric Hexum, who died in '84 from a prop gun going off. And the thing was, from what I understand, if you're not familiar with his name, in '82 to '83, he was on a big TV series called Voyagers. Never finished the series because he was on a movie set on I think it was called Cover Up or Golden Opportunity. It was a 20th Century Fox movie. It was supposed to be seen that he was supposed to load a weapon. He was given all the things to do it, the training and all that. And there was delays in shooting. So basically he was impatient and fiddling around with the gun. And as he was playing around the revolver like Russian roulette, one of the blanks went off as he pulled the trigger, apparently unaware of that it could go off and hurt and kill him. Because basically when you use a blunt, and this is '84, this wasn't a bullet. Blanks use paper or plastic wadding to seal gunpowder into the cartridge, and the wadding is propelled from the barrel of the gun, and it can cause injury or death. Understand to that nature. So when you hear people say, well, we need to stop using guns on sets, eliminate all that. No, it is not the weapon in question. It is the person using the weapon, the person that is responsible for putting the weapon on the stage set. For that situation in '84, that weapon should have been taken away from the actor, stored away temporarily as they figure out what the issues are until they can redo shootings away. We know this nature. if that would have done, John Eric would be still alive today. In the case of Brandon Lee, it was a direct accident in the same nature that basically it was a wad of paper, a projectile in there, killed him.
Yeah, let me grab a 38. So what they'll do again is take out the bullet, empty out the gunpowder, and then instead of making the primer inert, they'll just stick the bullet back in there and then shove it into the gun, give it to the actor, and hope for the best. But unfortunately, that creates what's called a squib. And if I loaded that into here, and of course this is empty, by the way. So if I loaded it in here and I went ahead and pulled the trigger, that would ignite the primer, which does not have gunpowder, but it does have enough oomph to push the bullet from the case and the cylinder into the barrel somewhat. And that creates an obstruction that is not secured. It's not welded in place like you would have in a 1911. You're going to have an obstruction that is still loose. And if you have a blank later on, if you load that again with a blank, the blanks will have a lot more gunpowder. They're not as powerful as military style blanks, but they are powerful enough to shoot the remaining bit of that bullet out of the barrel and of course could injure someone on set.
Safety comes first when it comes to prop masters, weapon masters, armor. Always to that situation. Now you may ask yourself, are you blaming the weapons master? At this time, there has to be more investigation to the nature. As it shows right now, because you had someone who was inexperienced in this set, as far as a civil lawsuit, you could say, and I'm not a lawyer, but from a civil point of view, yes, they're probably going to be in deep trouble for that situation. They're probably going to be sued because you had a woman who this was only her second movie. If she was still learning the business, there should have been another weapons master on set with her. This was sounding like she was still an apprentice. According to some people saying that she's accredited, that she's done her training to the situation. Other people said not enough training. Now, this is not to take anything away from Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin was the one who held the gun up. Whether or not he pulled the trigger is to this, like I said, the situation. As a producer to the film itself, yes, there is responsibility when it comes to a civil suit. To a criminal suit, that still needs to be investigated. We need to be patient. And you know, this, I mean, we hear stories like this all the time where something accidental happens and stuff like that, and we jump to conclusions. Technically, from an aspect, from what I've seen, from what the evidence so far, there is nobody innocent as far as this situation. From start to finish, to the whole situation, one, did the production company bring staff that were inexperienced to replace people that were experienced on the set? That's a question that has to be answered. Two, was there any sabotage on this set? And you have to ask that too. Was there any sabotage? We don't know. Three, of the people involved, who will be held liable the biggest? And that's going to be up to the courts itself. Four, the weapon used in there, was it functioning properly or was it malfunctioning? Was it loaded properly or wasn't it not loaded properly? Now, a lot of people says there was a bullet in there, that it's a bullet. We don't know what exactly was in that gun. And people keep saying that there was a bullet on there. If there is a rule and regulation that actual bullets cannot be used on a movie set, why was there a bullet on the movie? Why was there full ammunition on the set? Is there a reason why? Now, understand the way, and I keep saying, I'll say this on that, the type of classification weapon that was used on the set is loaded differently from what a normal, say, 9mm or Beretta or any handgun that is made today versus a gun that's made like in the 1850s. And you've seen the videos. There are differences. Were they shooting at a what they call a heroic part in there, which is person loading the gun, and you're seeing the bullet into the nature on there. But those type of bullets are blanks. That's certain things you do see on, in some movies. Perfect example, if you go back and look at The Matrix and look at the bullets on there, you can tell from an expert point of view that all those bullets were blanks. Any weapons expert, armorer will tell you those were blanks, and you can tell. So unfortunately, that is a mistake of the film on there when they dropped all those bullets on there. It was supposed to more look like an actual bullet, but unfortunately, because bullets are not allowed on set, they did it this way. So you can't blame the gun itself. You can't say to yourself, there's one director says, oh, I'm not going to have any more guns in the set. Why? Until someone has an accident falling off the roof of a building onto the mattress cushion, the air cushion to protect yourself. Are you going to take away jumps from a building? Are you going to take away explosions? Because there are movies where they use explosions. We've seen what would happen with an explosion on the set of Twilight Zone, where Vic Morrow and 2 children were killed when the helicopter crashed as pyrotechnics was blowing around it. Now, when it came down to the case, John Landis and other people that were involved, 9 months in the case, they were found, they were acquitted of involuntary manslaughter. The parents of the children settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. The Morrow family also settled for an undisclosed amount as well. Accidents on movie sets happen. Sometimes it is an accidental thing that happens, and sometimes it's things that basically were negligent to the situation. We need to take the moment and wait and see how this investigation goes. Do we need changes in the industry? As far as the rules and regulations on the set when it comes to explosive weapons and all that, there is no changes needed. The change that's needed is the people that we hire to work on these sets, the amount of experience that's needed on the set. I say if a person has less than a certain amount of, if they have less than, say, 4 years experience, let's say 4 years experience, there should be a second person on the set backing up that person to make sure they're doing their job right. If they're newly, like this girl Hannah, if she's newly, this is her second movie. Why wasn't there a second weapon master on the set? If you cut cost on the set, cut a couple of trying to save money on the production, that is incorrect, wrong to do. Safety is very important on the set of a movie. That is one of the biggest things, is that especially when you're using explosives, gunpowder, any of that nature, safety is essential. Even in hand weapons, swords, knives, I mean, on and on and on and on. I mean, there are many, situations where, you have to make sure things are safe on a set. And not only the weapons, we're talking about the equipment. If something's supposed to collapse on a stage set, you have to make sure that is properly run. A stunt people. I mean, there are histories of many different movies that have had situations where people have died making those movies or have been injured making these movies. Because I keep hearing this, oh, we need to have more regulations. We need more. No, we need to follow the regulations that are put in front of us. There are little things that need to be tweaked. Like I said, you need to have a second. If the person has a certain amount of years. If they're supposed to be certified, someone who's only worked on 2 films, that should have been someone else there. They should have more experience from someone that has done a good career, has had very good experience on these sets, especially with a weapon of this specific caliber. You know, there's an old saying that says, you know, people say, I'd rather get shot by a gun today than a gun from the 1800s. Because guns back then, yeah, guns kill. Guns can kill. That's correct. When you look at, say, for example, a Magnum, you see what a Magnum can do. Think of an old, say, Umberti 1847. How much damage do you think that can do? You've heard stories where guys lose their limbs for getting shot of that nature. I'm not saying their limbs come off. Their limbs have to be removed from the damage that those kind of pellets do to a body. They're dangerous. Not saying that a 9mm is not more not deadly either, but they're all deadly weapons and should be taken care of with proper experience. To the other half, from the production point of view, if the assistant directors had issues before, should this person be investigated? Yes. As a whole, the whole production should be, from top to bottom. No, the filming should cease right now. I'm not certain if they're continuing. They probably ceased right now. But filming should be completely ceased until the investigation is completed and the findings are published. It is tragic that these things happen. And for the people who, you know, for the cinematographer that died, I send out condolences to that family. She shouldn't have died on the set, whether it was negligence or accidental. And to those who are trying to politicize this situation, shame on you. Shame on you. Because there are rules. There are things that goes on in the set that you have to abide by. And if it's because the union walked off, or basically they brought people on that was cheaping on to replace the union workers, or basically someone sabotaged, believe me, there are no good guys in this until we find out the entire story. And we probably might not even find the entire story. We might not find out. Might need to take a court, a civil and criminal courts to handle this situation. And of course, this is Hollywood. If this is Hollywood being cheap, this shows you. And we've talked about this before from a point of view as writers, as people who are making these movies that basically are pure garbage. This is what shows what happens when you're just literally are focused on politics as well. Were they focused on politics on this set? Don't know. Haven't seen the movie. Whatever it is on there. But knowing the way Alec Baldwin has acted in the past and the way that how a experienced assistant director who has had issues before is still making movies on sets when he's had a list of basically questionable decisions on movie sets which can cause injury. You're wondering why he's still in the business and not put aside for now until an investigation is done. Whether those investigations have happened or not, we still need to look into that. This is something early on, and like I said, right now, we can't make any major judgments as of yet, and I don't. Right now, this is an overall, it's a group situation. So until we know, let's wait, be patient, and hope that justice is served for the family of the director the cinematographer, Hala Hutchinson's, and hopefully Joe Souza will get better in the hospital. He's in the hospital still, as far as we know. With let's hope the damage is not extensive, because we still don't know on that. But Hala Hutchinson, rest in peace, and we hope your family is basically taken care of by this situation, and that you get justice. So thank you for watching this video, and please comment below. And understand, some of the stuff that we detailed here is not all of the details. There's much more. This is only a small piece. This video was long, but it's a small chunk. And I've only given you a little of what I understand to the situation from my experience on the set, and which is not a lot with this classification of weapon, but I have used prop guns without any explosives or anything of that nature. But I see from that, even that, there are people that handle that gun before handing it to somebody before it's used on a set. So until next time, thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, like, share, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye now.